Hey guys, it's Adam. God bless you. Several years ago, I had a significant speech impediment. I was in an IED blast, and everyone in my truck survived, thank God, but everyone had some significant TBI, traumatic brain injury, basically got brain damage, bad concussion from the blast. Something that stuck with me from that was I had developed a very bad stutter habit. My thoughts would not go out of my mouth. I would be thinking them, but somehow the words would sound slurred or smashed together. I couldn't finish thoughts in a way that were important to me, and so I had to develop a lot of mechanisms to overcome that. I spent over 2 years in speech therapy at Fort Drum to overcome this issue, and we've done everything from hands-on exercises, understanding how the brain connects to the mouth. I even imposed some self-imposed therapy on this with listening to talk radio, because I just love listening to people who can communicate well, who can captivate an audience for hours at a time and keep them focused on what they're saying. So guys like Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, love the gift that they had, love the talent that they had in communicating. I wasn't so much focused on the content that they were delivering, but their ability to deliver long-form communication, to get a point across and to maintain people's attention. I love that. So that was back 2011, 2013, kind of that time frame. Now, I was still in charge of troops at the time. So I was still a platoon leader, in and out of some shops, moving between different things. And despite this fact that I had a speech impediment, I was still in charge of people. Everything, grunts or ground troops are supposed to do: shoot, move, communicate. That's the big three. And as an officer, one of my biggest portions of that is the ability to communicate, to organize, to coordinate movements, to make sure everybody's moving in a way that protects us and causes as much harm to the bad guys as possible. And how do you do that if you've got a stutter? How do you do that if you slur your speech? How do you do that if you can't finish the thought that you're trying to get across? And man, that wore down on my psyche in a big way. Like, my defects, my faults, my experiences are now injuring me, and not only injuring me, but it's possibly putting other people at risk as well. Of course, I brought that home with me. That had impacts on my marriage. I didn't have kids yet, but just the communication breakdown. I know my wife bore with me a lot on that. She was very patient with me in that season. Impacted me socially, where I was embarrassed to go out and hang out with people because I knew I would slur my speech. I knew I would stutter. I knew I wouldn't be able to finish the thought that I had. As a matter of fact, I've still got some of these in a lesser way, and I've got some coping mechanisms, some mental tools that help me to overcome some of these items, but it's still real. It's still a living part of my life. Fast forward a few years, and I am working with my Civil Affairs Battalion XO. So all these guys in this group, special operations folks, it was a great team to be in. And this major, and I would say his name if I remember it, phenomenal leader. I mean, this guy was smart. He had excellent perspective. He was wise, physically fit, a great team builder. Everyone that worked for this guy loved working with him. So his personality was great. And in addition, if I could just say this on a personal side, I love working for a guy who's got a great sense of humor. This guy had a great sense of humor. Could always bring some cheer and some joy into really otherwise crappy situations. So love working with this gentleman. Always went to him for advice and wisdom. And he also had a horrible stutter. Now, I thought I had a bad one. This guy had one that was prevalent. Guy could not speak a single paragraph without getting caught on a stutter. And despite that stutter, people listened because they knew his reputation. They knew him as a hard worker. They knew him as a part of the team. Someone has put his efforts in, and now he has this defective speech, but he's still a phenomenal person to have on your team. And what I did not appreciate at the time was everyone would identify him as, oh, that dude with the stutter. Oh, that dude with the stutter. Because it's so easy for us to always remember the one thing that is off or different or, I'll put in quotations, bad about that person. they would always say, oh yeah, the major with the stutter. And that was his key identifier. And I hated that so much. As someone who had gone through that with the same thing, I had a great reputation with my guys, worked hard, dedicated, all that stuff. But when new guys would come into my platoon, new guys would come into my shop, they would always ask like, well, hey, what's up with LT White's speech? What's up with how he talks? He talks very briefly and shortly and always has notes with him. And I hated it. I was so embarrassed by that being a part of my life. By God's grace, overcame it, but back to the major. He was someone that I would say that's the type of leader that I want to be. And I had so much respect for him because I know he was aware of it. I know he knew that was a part of how he communicated, yet he showed up to serve every single day. He didn't try to slide out of meetings. He knew he had this defect, but he just owned it instead. He has so much of my admiration because he had the courage to continue serving others, not only in kind of the abstract national sense, but he loved helping young officers, young NCOs in our program to develop, to become the best they can be, to develop a perspective and a wisdom that he brought to the table that has honestly made me a better man to this day. And I see a lot of that sort of framing people's defects, their issues, their problems, whatever their negative thing is. We do that with people now, and it drives me nuts. We always label someone up front with, well, hey, you're going to go meet John. Now, hey, John is X, or John has blank. Whatever the issue was, we always lead with that. It's always like we're trying to buy a little bit of social distance, so we just want to make sure, well, we're not really associated with that guy. We know there's an issue over here. We know there's a problem over here, and we just want to label it early. Now, there's a difference I want to say on this between telling someone something so they don't have an awkward social situation. That's fine. So in the case of the major or myself, hey, this person has a stutter, it might be a good thing to know just so you don't have a social hiccup. But I hate that that's the label associated with them. So for us, what I see a lot, especially in the political sphere, is, hey, yeah, this is so-and-so, but just heads up, he's got X position, or he has this fault, or he has this experience in his history. So I want you to be aware of it. So you're aware, I don't approve of everything that person does. Well, yeah, no crap, guess what? I don't approve of everything that I do in my own life either, okay? And I think a little bit of humility would go a long way in communicating better. Instead of trying to disassociate with people who are basically like us with maybe one variation, how about we speak to each other in love, in unity, in cooperation, and knowing that, hey, this is someone that I love, that I would die for, that I would partner for, that I would defend, that I would go up to bat for in a multitude of ways. But I'm going to lead this in with a little bit of shame, just to let you know I'm not as bad as they are. As a matter of fact, I value my own social reputation more than I value this other person's reputation. I think there's something very insidious in that type of framework. It's almost like we're buying social insurance if we're going to communicate about someone. All that to say, I think we can do better. I think we can lead with respect. I think we can lead with unity. I think we can lead with love without having to qualify or nuance every relationship that we have with someone else, every position that we're going to have. I think it's important to not only grow as a culture, and by the way, I never saw this sort of like qualifying item up till about 10 years ago. This is a new phenomenon, and it drives me nuts. I don't know if it's part of social media because people will attack you because of the positions that other people hold, but there's something wrong with it, and I think we can do a lot better. So lead with respect, lead with unity, lead with love, and if we got to qualify something later on, let's do that. But let's not have the primary effect of us introducing to people that we know and we love as what's wrong with them. All right, guys, God bless you. I'll shut up, let you have the rest of your day. Thanks.